Cedric helped the boy towards a chair beside his radio-covered desks and inspected the boy's face and clothing for any signs of blood.
It's a slice across the cheek,
he told her. She was now trying to teeter off the bike and get as far away from it as possible.
Oh, deep enough to scar, but shallow enough to live.
Good.
Part of his ear's missing.
The boy garbled something, and Cedric flapped his hands in a panic.
Jim! Jim, come on!
She ignored his excitement over in the corner and staggered towards a bin in the opposite direction, hand on her stomach, as Cedric gripped the boy's shoulders.
Say that again? I didn't hear. Oh, come on, Jim!
Cedric turned his attention to his female counterpart.
What did he say? Has he said this to you before? Do you...
But his questions ceased as she threw up into the bin.
Get the kid a blanket.
Cedric did as he was told, just as Nona came charging up the dimly lit corridor, her med bag swinging on her belt. The railway hatch led straight into Cedric's communication room, which was a dark, metallic-feeling place at night. In the far left corner stood 3 desks, arranged into a square, all 3 covered in different radios that branched off to many different areas of Froxen Underground, wires trailing all over the floor. There was no other door. Instead, in the far right of the wall, an opening led into a candle-wanting corridor that greatly lacked interior grandeur. The air reeked of coal and steam here.
Jim?
Nona gasped. Looking from her throwing-up comrade to the boy in the chair, Nona rubbed her friend's back as she hurled into the bin again.
Don't tell me it was you who drove that bike,
she asked from the depths of her black hood.
There was no one else.
What about Paige?
We thought she malfunctioned, but I found the problem quick enough. She was short-circuited with too much electrical current. Some kind of mechanism was laid across the road, and a field of electricity was projected skyward like a screen.
Nona headed towards the boy as the report was given, Nona's full black corset dress bouncing as she walked. Her black gold-button boots echoed dimly on the floor. Leaning over the kid, Nona tipped his chin up and tilted her head this way and that, turning his bleeding cheek to face her with a careful touch. Cedric leaned against the wall by these two and turned his head away, looking at the woman who had stopped throwing up and was now slumped on the floor.
Is Paige injured?
Pretty much. I did my best to fix her up, but it blew the circuits in her kneecaps, and I only had 2 steam vials. The spares Paige keeps on her smashed upon impact.
So, what happened to them?
He hooked his fingers into his large green polo neck, dipping his mouth below the fabric.
She's moving at a jagged pace, barely stable. I imagine Remus would have connected a shuttle bike to the back of his and driven back here, but I wonder if there was someone waiting to jump them.
I bloody hope not,
Nona cried, dabbing the boy's face with a damp cloth.
But Paige demanded I carried on.
What? On foot? Why didn't you take Paige's shuttle? I'm sure she and Remus could have shared a bike between them.
She lifted her head off the wall to glare at him, and Nona interrupted.
Why do you think, you idiot?
Are you really so hopeless?
Look, I don't choose to hate being on things that travel at ridiculous speeds. You'll only get me on one if I'm not driving and my eyes are closed. All right, wet wipe.
Who are you calling me a wet wipe?
He pushed off the wall.
Oh, get over yourself, Cedric. The shipyard wasn't far anyway. I ran, okay? I made it. I managed to get the kid just as well as Remus might have, wired up and stole the machine, then drove the fucking thing almost as well as Paige would have.
The radios changed tune, and their constant hissing became broken up with a jumble of words. Cedric ran towards them, picking up receiver after receiver, and shouted,
Hello?
He snagged up the right connection in seconds. The room went very still as they all tried to listen, Nona daubing a special paste on the boy's sliced cheek in a slow, laborious manner that suggested she was holding her breath.
Will. Quickly, over.
Hello, unknown call sign. This is Charlie 5. Say again, over.
Hello, Charlie 5. Romeo and Papa.
Cedric stared with intense concentration at the table. The receiver pressed hard against his ear.
We need whiskey. Heading your location. Interception above Sector 9. Over.
Hello, Romeo. Whiskey will be deployed shortly. Out.
At once, Cedric threw down the phone he was holding and jammed his finger to the button on the wall that was labelled Whiskey. Shouting into the microphone, he ordered,
William! Get your arse out of bed now! William! Oi! Wake up! William! Will! Will!
As soon as he let go of the button, an angry voice responded,
Shut the hell up! I'm coming!
5 long minutes later, Nona was standing straight again and readjusting her black hood so as to ensure her face remained in utter shadow, though her black cloth mask should have been enough. The lad was wincing from whatever liquid Nona had put on his wounds to stop the bleeding, and Cedric tapped his fingers against his teeth. The distant sound of an elevator clattering down the corridor finally reached the quiet group, and soon William came striding towards his slumped comrade, the only one he could spot at that moment.
What happened?
He called to her.
Paige and Remus are being intercepted above Sector 9. I did my best to help Paige, but her circuits are badly blown. They need your help.
Why are you not with them? Did they send you on alone?
At this moment, William reached his pale-faced friend and turned towards the boy still sat in the corner. Striding towards him, Nona backed out the way.
Spiridon?
He addressed, running a hand over Spiridon's blonde hair. The 18-year-old looked up at him with hazy eyes.
Did your father have a chance to give you the amber crest or even the knowledge crest?
Spiridon swallowed a lump in his throat and took a moment to reply, as if he contemplated how safe it was with these people.
No,
was the boy's final response. William cringed, his hand slipping to the boy's shoulder, and gave him a reassuring squeeze as a train rolled overhead, dust powdering from the ceiling.
Nona, you're coming with me. Get your gun without delay. And Jim?
He turned towards the mechanic of Froxen Blue, who was still slumped against the wall, her eyes half open. Jim stared back, gazing over his coffee-coloured face.
Show Spiridon his room, then go to bed. You've done well, crease monkey.